This is one of the most hyped cars ever. If you're chronically online on Reddit and forums like me, then you already know that this car is better than sex. It's an E63 Wagon. It's allegedly the no compromises car. Well, why? Because first of all, it's an E-Class. So that means you get treated with a ton of luxury and comfort equipment. We'll dive deeper into that later, but you can sort of get an idea. Then comes what's under the hood. This thing you see right here is a biturbo V8 that puts out 585 horsepower and sends it to all four wheels. Well, actually, this specific unit is tuned to 700 horsepower. And then it's a wagon. So that means there's plenty of space for children or people in the back and plenty of space for luggage or stuff. So, we've now established that this car has a ton of power, it's incredibly comfortable, and it's luxurious. So that's why so many people allege that this is the perfect car. It's supposedly a car where you get Porsche 911 performance and the comfort of a normal E-Class and the practicality of an SUV. Well, that's not entirely true. I mean, two of those three things are mostly true. But there's one that isn't. And it's, no surprise there, the performance. Now, don't get me wrong, this car is blisteringly fast, both on the highway and on a track. Blisteringly fast for a wagon, but not blisteringly fast for a sports car. I mean, I do have to admit, it is really super car fast when it comes to acceleration. This unit with all this equipment weighs over 2 tons. And there's no getting around that when it comes to driving and the handling of this car. The E-Class sound deadening doesn't help either. It is extremely practical, and it is very, very fast, and it's very luxurious. It's just not a no compromises car. You do get a compromise. You do get a compromise on handling, on feeling, and on the general way it drives, except when you put the pedal to the floor and it really, really accelerates. It is not a no compromises car, but that doesn't take away 1 inch from the fact that it is an outstanding car. Leave hype aside and let's just go into this as a normal E63 AMG Wagon review. Short personal story of mine with these AMGs. Now, I had until a few weeks ago an S55 AMG. And I had a similar experience. Before I bought that car, I was told that it was a really fast S-Class and that it was the perfect mix of a sports car and an S-Class. Well, that wasn't entirely true. It was just a really, really fast S-Class with a nice grumble to the exhaust. It was more S-Class than it was sports car. Of course, duh, that's a no-brainer. It's an S55 AMG. What do you think the S stands for? Well, it's a similar thing with this E63. It's a really, really fast and really interesting and incredibly well-sounding E63 wagon. It's not a normal E-Class diesel, of course. It's much more interesting than that. But it is what it is first, an E-Class wagon. And if you go with that mindset in the first place, you're going to find that this is truly an amazing car. Doesn't it sound fantastic? Well, we've got just about everything. Memory seats with 3 positions, Bang & Olufsen speakers, a panoramic sunroof, these paddle shifters which are actually made out of solid metal. And it's not like those aluminum paddle shifters where you can really just feel, and they're made of aluminum, but they still feel plasticky. Well, these are like these old-fashioned, very hard metal paddle shifters. You get, of course, automatic lights, automatic wipers, that's a no-brainer. You get heated and ventilated seats. You get an IWC clock and carbon fiber all over the car. Oh, of course, the passenger also gets their electric seats with memories. And this is the 7-speed AMG dual clutch gearbox. And here are all the AMG settings. You've got comfort mode, sport plus mode, manual mode, which you can adjust to whatever you want. You've got, of course, button to engage and disable the stability control, 2 suspension hardness settings, and the AMG button, which is also manual mode where you can set everything all at once. You also get 3-zone climate control, front and rear parking sensors with backup camera, and dynamic seats. Now, this is super interesting. I've seen it in a bunch of other cars, but I'll explain what it does in a second. When you're turning fast, experiencing some very strong G-forces, the seat actually inflates on the side which you're leaning against so that it holds you in place. It's a really incredible feature. I've seen it on the M5 E60, which is the M5 built between around 2006 to 2011. I've seen it on this car. I've seen it on other cars before. It's very weird. It is a great feature once you're experiencing it. And that's a great point in the video to ask you to subscribe and actually like it. Thank you very much. What this car should be recognized as is a car that allows you to ride in complete comfort, but has a ton of power when you need it. It also has the ability to make you the coolest dad or mom at school if you're picking up your kids with this car. The thing is that it's true, it's a compromise, but it's a really good compromise. If you're a person that has to sell their sports car, this is really as close as it gets. And you don't get a boring SUV. No, you got a cool wagon. Okay, now that everyone who's not really interested in this car left, let's dive into the nerdier data. The 5.5-liter biturbo engine replaced the naturally aspirated 6.2 that the earlier versions pre-facelift had. I should note that there are some pre-facelift cars that already have this engine, but we're gonna ignore that for the moment. Also important, the E63s came with red calipers versus the normal E63 AMGs that mostly did not. As for rear room practicality, well, it's excellent because you've got no sloping roofline. Plus you also get heated seats back here. And these post-facelift cars were made from 2013 to 2016 when they were replaced by the new E-Class. Now these E-Classes are called the W212 chassis, and they replaced the W211, which was the E-Class with the two rounded front headlights. I should mention that specifically the wagons are called the S chassis. So this would be an S212, is for being specific. It is indeed a stunning looking car. First of all, unless I'm driving on the track, I'm very cautious when talking about what the driving dynamics of a car are like. So, for example, I know a lot of people just drive around in circles and then talk about how a car oversteers or understeers. I think that's nonsense. But what I can get from driving in town, I've driven about 20 kilometers with this car already, is that, you know, it's a very sedate car when it comes to a driving experience. It's not a twitchy car like an MX-5, it's not a twitchy car like some other cars I've driven over the years. The E63 wagon has two different faces. On one hand, you've got the one I'm experiencing now, where it's a very comfortable car. As far as I can tell, this is just an E220 diesel. It's a normal E-Class, nothing special about it. It's only when you put the power down or when you put the suspension into sport mode like I've just done, or the gearbox into sport mode, that you realize you've got something special under the hood. And it's exactly that feature, the one that a lot of people love. You've got two cars. You've got a normal E-Class and you've got a fun E-Class. Once again, it's not a 911 GT3 on the track, but it's still a very interesting car when you compare it to its rivals, and it's certainly more interesting than any SUV, or at least any SUV that I've driven, which is actually what makes this car so interesting. So now I'm cruising, I'm chilling, everything's fine, but I put the power down, and a completely different car awaits. And the owner tells me that it's a great car for long journeys or road tripping if that's what you need. So you've got two cars in one. A sedate, chill E-Class and a sporty E-Class. It's not a 911 GT3, fair, but it's still a very interesting car. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe for more content here. Until the next video.